All right, let's talk about something that's literally at the heart of every single interaction you have, but it's often totally misunderstood, and that's power. Today, we're going to break down exactly where power comes from in a negotiation, whether you're in a boardroom or, just figuring out what's for dinner. When you hear the word power, your mind probably jumps to, like, CEOs and skyscrapers, right? But here's the thing, it's not just for them. Understanding power is a critical skill for anyone who wants to communicate better, advocate for themselves, and, well, get what they want out of life in pretty much any setting. So it all boils down to this one big question, right? In any negotiation, who really holds the cards? Is it the person with the biggest bank account? The one who talks the loudest? The one with the fancy job title? Well, the answer's way more interesting than that. And by the end of our little chat today, you're going to have a complete framework to figure it out for yourself. Okay, let's get into it. First, we're going to nail down what power actually is. Then, we'll get to the good stuff, the 6 different sources of power. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about how to use this stuff wisely and, maybe more importantly, what not to do. All right, first things first. Before we can start talking about all the cool ways to use power, we've got to be on the same page about what it even is. Let's build that foundation. Okay, so what is it? At its absolute core, power is just this: the ability to influence another person or organization to do something. That's it. It's not about domination or control, it's about influence. And honestly, just getting that simple shift in your head is a huge first step to getting better at any negotiation. And this is a really crucial point. Power itself isn't good or bad. It's totally neutral. Think of it like a tool, maybe a hammer. You can use that hammer to build something amazing, or you can use it to smash things. The hammer itself isn't evil, right? It's all about how you use it. And that's a big theme we're going to see over and over again today. All right, now for the main event. Let's get into the 6 sources of power. I want you to think of these as your personal toolkit for influence. Every situation is different, and the real pros, well, they know exactly which tool to pull out at just the right moment. Okay, first up in our toolkit, informational power. And let's be real, in the world we live in today, this one is huge. It really is all about what you know. So, this power comes from having access to the right information and being able to present it in a persuasive way. Think about buying a car. If you walk onto that lot knowing the dealer's invoice price, what other people paid, and the current promotions, boom, you have informational power. But, and this is a big but, you have to be careful. It can be manipulated. The other side might only show you the facts that make their case look good. Okay, next up is reward power. This one's super straightforward. It's the classic carrot approach. Basically, it's your ability to give somebody something they actually want. It could be a bonus, a promotion, a good review, even just a simple thank you can work. It's a really direct way to get things done. The key, though, is that the reward only works if the other person truly values it. An offer of a steak dinner doesn't have much power over a vegetarian, you know? Now, if reward power is the carrot, coercive power is, well, it's the stick. It's the darker flip side of the coin. This is all about influence through punishment, or the threat of punishment, taking something away, making things difficult. And look, it can definitely seem like it works in the short term, but it's an incredibly high-risk strategy. Using it pretty much guarantees you'll damage the relationship, destroy trust, and you're basically just inviting them to get you back later on. Number 4 is legitimate power. This is the kind of power that comes from your official position, your role, your title. So think of a manager, a police officer, or even a parent. Their authority doesn't come from them being a genius or super likable. It comes from the structure they're in. A buyer for a massive company, for example, has legitimate power because their job gives them the authority to sign a huge contract. The key takeaway here is that this power is tied to the position, not the person. Okay, now we're shifting to a much more personal type of power. This is expert power, and it's all about what you know and what you can do. What's really interesting here is that you can think of expert power as a special kind of informational power. It's not just about knowing a few facts for one negotiation. It's about a deep, specialized body of knowledge you've built up over time. It's the PhD, the 20 years of experience, the certifications. A doctor has expert power because we trust all that training. But here's the catch. It only works if the other person actually believes in and values your expertise. And last, but definitely not least, we have referent power. This is, for lack of a better word, the power of just being liked and respected. This one has nothing to do with your job title or how much data you have. It comes from your personal qualities, your charisma, your integrity, how you treat people. Think about that person everyone just seems to trust and listen to. We want to agree with them, not because of any external reason, but just because we admire them. And you know what's cool about this one? Unlike legitimate power, which disappears the second you quit your job, referent power is something you take with you wherever you go. Okay, so there you have it. That's our 6-piece toolkit for influence. But look, just knowing the tools exist is only half the battle. The real trick is learning how to use them effectively and ethically. So let's start with a major word of warning. Abusing your power, any of these types of power, is just a terrible idea. It's a fast track to failure, really. You're going to damage relationships, you're going to make people want to get back at you, and the crazy part is, the more you misuse your power, the less of it you'll actually have in the long run. You know, the best negotiators, they never just rely on one tool from the kits. They understand this incredible concept called synergy. It's that idea that 1 + 1 can equal 3. The combining different sources of power makes you way more influential than just using one at a time. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let's think about combining expert power and referent power. Look, being the recognized expert in the room, that's powerful. And being the person everyone genuinely likes and respects, that's also really powerful. But what happens when you're both? When you're the smartest person in the room and everyone likes listening to you? Wow, now that is a seriously potent combination. So we're going to leave you with this to think about. You now have the framework. You can spot these sources of power everywhere, in other people, and just as importantly, in yourself. The real work, though, it starts now. So I want you to look at this toolkit and ask yourself, which of these are my natural strengths? And maybe the bigger question is, which ones am I going to consciously work on and cultivate to become that much more effective? The choice, as they say, is yours.